Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about lessons from CGIAR research on the why and how of secure tenure and responsible land governance. I'm Ruth Meinzen-Dick from International Food Policy Research Institute. Most of us in this meeting probably know why we need secure tenure and responsible governance for sustainable food systems. But when the CGIAR started a program on collective action and property rights, we were often asked why. Because the CGIAR is associated more with sustainable food production. So why should we be concerned with these kinds of issues? This graph was our answer. If we think about any of the agricultural technologies or natural resource management practices, if we think about their time horizon and their spatial scale, the longer the time horizon, the more we need secure tenure for people to have the incentive and the authority in order to make those investments in the resources. If we move above the level of an individual farm, then we have to have coordination mechanisms across people. And those are governance arrangements at lower levels. Collective action has the advantage. At higher levels, the state does, and what's important is how they work together. So a lot of what we do requires attention to these issues. For example, security for sustainable practices like investing in soils means having the legal right and also the ability to access and control a plot of land. That's just the starting point, though. Our recent PIM research under the CGIAR research program on policies, institutions, and markets has shown that the negative consequences of tenure insecurity in terms of lower investment in the land, lower agricultural productivity, less likely to escape poverty, and poorer nutritional status for the children. Now, then, if we agree that tenure is important, a lot of tenure work looks only at private lands. For sustainability, we need to consider the commons as well as private lands. And because the commons provide important ecosystem services upon which agriculture and all of us depend. Our CAPRI and PIM research has therefore looked at collective tenure as well as household and individual tenure, and looked at women's land rights within each of these categories. If we look at what has caused tenure insecurity, we see that very often it's the very things that we're often promoting in terms of commercialization of agriculture, active land markets. Those are creating tenure insecurity for women, pastoralists, groups with less power. Elite capture during the titling process can also increase tenure insecurity. And weak law enforcement, breakdown of customary systems, and limited awareness of rights are all factors. When it comes to securing tenure for household and individual lands, the main mechanism that's been used, especially in Africa, is registration of customary use rights or customary rights. But those rights registration programs have been unevenly or sometimes poorly implemented. And that lack of effective implementation decreases the tenure security of women, migrants, poor landowners, those people who have less well-documented and subsidiary rights. Inadequate financial and technical capacity, rent seeking, all of these limit the implementation of these reforms. And it's not enough to just implement state laws, but you have to look at social norms in tandem with that for women's rights to be secure. And we have tools now for that. For collective tenure, securing that titling or registration of the territorial rights of communities or indigenous peoples have been useful. Community forestry or fisheries concessions and co-management or joint village land use planning are all useful mechanisms. But again, the implementation matters. You need ongoing engagement and capacity building. Multi-stakeholder processes have been very useful in arranging this, and organized social alliances such as Indigenous Peoples Associations have been instrumental in supporting these rights and furthering reforms. The VGGTs have the potential to provide soft law to empower these marginalized groups. They include multiple types of resources, which is important. And we've worked on, for example, the implementation guide on the commons and women's land rights. All of these are very useful. We have a lot of resources on our PIM website, and I'm very happy to follow up with anybody who wants more information about any of these studies and initiatives that have been done. Thank you very much.